guys, so a lot of you have messaged me about my biscuit recipe. I've given it to quite a few people, and I've also posted it in some of the food groups as well. A lot of you have tried it and liked it, but I have something today that's a lot easier, and they taste just as good as mine. I mean, you can barely tell the difference. Mine may be a little bit more buttery, but for someone that's just starting out trying to make biscuits, this is really good. It's just 2 ingredients and that's it. Because I posted my biscuit recipe a while back in, I think it was the Appalachian food group, and a lady messaged me, said that she'd been making biscuits her whole life, and that her mom had taught her when she was a young girl. And she said that somebody mentioned something to her 6 or 7 months ago, and she said she tried it because she said that I was doing way too much work. She said they didn't need to be kneaded, and because I knead my biscuits, and she said because I also use a stick of butter in mine. I grate a stick of butter, and she said, well, let me tell you how I make my biscuits now. She said that now that she's found this out, this is the only way that she makes her biscuits. So she began to tell me how, and myself personally, I've never liked a biscuit mix, like Bisquick or anything like that. I don't like that. I've always just made my biscuits with self-rising flour, buttermilk, and a stick of grated butter. That's how I've always made mine ever since I was young. So what I'm going to show you today is a biscuit mix. And there's no way whatsoever that y'all can mess this up. Emma could literally make these by herself. But what I've been doing is I just take some Crisco and put it on a paper towel in a thin layer. Just wipe your pan down. And then I'm going to show you the bag of the biscuit mix. I have tried it several times, and like I said, I think it's just as good. And I think some of you all will like it. Everybody that's tried them has liked it. I was really worried at first because I never did think that you could get a good biscuit from a biscuit mix until I tried these. So some of y'all may already know what it is. Some of you may not. This is it. It's a Southern Biscuit Formula L Biscuit Mix. You can get it at Walmart for like $4. And this is as easy as it is. You have to preheat the oven to 450 though. It's 3 1/4 cup of the flour. And then 1 1/4 cup of buttermilk. When you make biscuits, even with my original recipe, my homemade biscuits, you don't want to stir your flour and your buttermilk. You just kind of want to push it in with each other to mix it. Stirring it is going to make a tough biscuit, and you may need to add more flour. I do sometimes. It just depends. But you'll know when it's ready to take out of the bowl when it starts pulling away from the sides. Pretty good. And it's not as sticky. This is a very, it's more on the dry side. But like I said, it makes really good biscuits. I can probably do my original recipe one day, but I've had so many people message me wanting an easy biscuit recipe, and I think this is the easiest that there is. I don't think it gets any easier than this. But like I said, you just want to kind of fold it over on itself. Do you need to go outside, my girl? Baby, can you come and let Molly out? Okay. Okay. It's looking pretty good. No, don't let her take it outside with her. She's just wanting to play. May girl, do you need to go outside? Okay, so mine's still a little sticky. So I'm gonna wash my hands right fast, and then I'm gonna put just a little bit more flour in mine. If she's not wanting to go out, baby, you can just go play if she's not wanting to go.
Okay.
I love you, baby. I'm not going to put very much in there at all. It doesn't need much. It's just a tad bit sticky. And you will need to flour your countertop or whatever you decide to do yours on. I know some people, they take parchment paper and roll it out and do it that way. But I always just do mine on the countertop. And you want to make sure your counter's clean. I always use a Clorox wipe on mine. I let it stay on the counter for about 10 minutes, and then I take a damp paper towel and go back over it. That way your biscuits don't come out tasting like lemony fresh scent of your Clorox wipe. Alright, as you can see, it's just becoming to a ball now. And that's what you want. There's going to be sticky places in your dough, and like I said, just add, if you feel that, just sprinkle a little bit of flour on it. You don't need very much. I actually think this should call for probably 3.5 cups of flour instead of 3 1/4. I think it would work out better that way. I can't wait for you all to try this, because I know anybody can do it. It doesn't matter if you've been cooking your whole life or if you're just now starting out. You're going to be able to make these biscuits. I promise you. Alright, there we go. You can roll them out if you have a rolling pin. I have one. Sometimes I use the rolling pin. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just pat them out. I actually don't even use a biscuit cutter. I've used a vegetable can for years, and it cuts them just as well. I actually just like the size of it. It cuts really good sized biscuits. Alright. You just want to take your dough out. Like I said, you can either roll it out or you can just pat it out. It doesn't matter. If you have any sticky parts, just dab it with flour. And you can make these as thick as you want them. I kind of like the dough to be about this thick for my biscuits. And the good thing about this is, like I said, you don't need to knead the dough any for them to rise. They actually rise pretty good without kneading. So, and as you can see, it's got the little flakes of butter in with the flour already. So, it actually turned out pretty good. My granny taught me how to make biscuits when I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And I've been making them ever since. But when I found out about this recipe, I said, well, I'm going to give it a try. And sure enough, the first time I made them, I couldn't believe how good they turned out. Alright. You just want to cut straight down. Don't twist, because that will keep your biscuits from rising as much. You just want to put them in your pan. This usually makes about anywhere from 10 to 12 biscuits. It just really depends on what size of cutter that you're using and how thick as well. What I do with this is I just put it back up into a ball. It is a little sticky where I cut those out, so you just need to Get you a little bit more flour there. Pat it out again. I've made these a little bit thicker, so this one's not going to make near as many biscuits. But for $4 for the biscuit mix, and then a couple dollars for a quart of buttermilk, you can't go wrong here. I know a lot of people struggle with homemade biscuits. Some people say it's just something that you either can do it or not. I know my mama, she makes great biscuits. When I was younger, all my friends, we lived right beside my mama, and we would always have her to make us biscuits and gravy. We talk about that all the time. That was a little sticky. It may make 10. I may get another one out of that. Emma's picky with biscuits. She actually didn't even start eating biscuits until she was probably 8 years old before she actually even started to eat biscuits. You know, she's a really picky eater, as I've told you all before. And she doesn't like canned biscuits that much. She'll eat them, but she doesn't like them. And but these biscuits, she absolutely loves them. Okay, I'm going to get these over in the pan so y'all can see them. And you want your biscuits to touch. You don't want to separate them in the pan. You want them to touch. When they touch, that's going to make them rise more. You can knead this dough. There's no problem in that. You can knead it if you want a higher rise. But like I said, my biscuits came out great without having to knead them. But you can just give it a try the way that it says on the bag the first time. And you'll kind of get a feel for it then. If you want taller biscuits, then just knead it a few times. Alright, this is how you want your biscuits to look on the pan. Like I said, you want them to touch. And this made 10. So I'm going to put them in the oven. You put them in, it says to bake them for 12 minutes, but I usually have to do 15 at 450. So I'm going to put these in the oven, and then I'll come back in just a little bit and show y'all what they look like. So here's the biscuits. They just got done. What I like to do when they first come out of the oven is just, you can either melt butter or you can just take a stick of butter like I do. And just put it on the tops of the biscuits. I told you these biscuits are so good. I couldn't believe it when I first tried them. Because all I'd ever known was homemade biscuits. And how Granny made them. But like I said, this is a good starter recipe for those of y'all that have trouble making biscuits. If you do make them, let me know how they turn out for you. I'm sure they'll turn out just fine. And let me know how you like them. I think they taste 90% just as good as our homemade ones do. Let me show y'all how fluffy they are too. And like I said, they rise pretty good without having to knead them. They're so fluffy on the inside. We've had these biscuits with biscuits and gravy, and I've also used them for sausage biscuits, or like sausage, egg, and cheese, or tenderloin biscuits as well. Like I said, I still make my homemade biscuits from time to time, but this is, if you're in a hurry, this one is definitely what you need. But that's all that there is to the biscuits. Like I said, let me know if you all try them and how you like them. You can get this, I'm not sure if you can get it at IGA. I usually get it at Walmart, and it's around $3.98 a bag. If y'all have any questions, just message me.